I've just arrived at a utopia for girls. But when I look a little closer, it actually appears to be a prison. Although the high walls aren't so that the girls can't get out. It's so who's on the outside can't get in to hurt them. I'm in Kenya, visiting the girls at the beginning of the rainy season. But the first time I heard about them was 6 years ago, halfway across the world, in the middle of a snowy Canadian winter. I'm working on an animated film. It feels like I haven't talked to or seen anyone in days, probably because I haven't, when the phone rings. It's my good friend and human rights lawyer, Fiona Sampson. She doesn't have time to chat and get straight to the point. Can I come to Kenya in 2 weeks? A group of lawyers, researchers, academics, and activists are putting together a legal case. They've been working hard fundraising to make it happen, and now they're ready to move forward. I'm intrigued, but I need to think about whether or not I can drop everything and travel to Kenya. Fiona tells me if they're successful, they could make legal history. While I pause to consider it, Fiona tells me about Millie. When Millie was 13 years old, she loved to read. She was an excellent student, second in her class. Millie lives in Kenya, outside of the town of Meru, on a small farm. Every day she'd get up early in the morning and walk the hour-long journey to school. A good part of the walk is on a narrow path through the bush. One day, Millie met a man on the path. She tried to walk around him, but he caught her and pulled her into the bush. He raped her. Millie made her way home and told her parents what happened. They went to the police, but the police refused to investigate, and the man who raped Millie went free. Millie got pregnant as a result of the rape and stopped going to school to care for her baby. A year later, at the end of a meeting in the village, the chief asked if anyone had anything to add. Millie raised her hand. She said, "Here I am with this baby, because that man raped me. What are you going to do about it?" No one said anything. No one did anything. Millie is one of 160 girls from Meru who would do something about it. Two weeks later, I pack my bags and fly halfway around the world. I pick up my luggage and step out of the airport into Nairobi. I travel 5 hours north, passing farmers' fields and villages, until I arrive in the town of Meru. Not far from the busy market, well hidden down a quiet lane, is a small, rented house. This is Tumaini shelter, where girls come who have been defiled, the legal term in Kenya for the rape of a child. 160 girls, including Millie, have received treatment here. The shelter was started by Mercy Chidi and her husband. Both left high-paying international jobs to respond to the AIDS crisis when it reached Mercy's hometown. On top of being a mother of 4 and running an impressive NGO, Mercy is committed to improving the lives of these girls.
Hundred and 60 girls are representatives of many other hundreds of girls who have gone through sexual violence and have suffered silently. Everyone is entitled to justice, no matter who you are. If I'm a poor woman in the village, if I'm a poor girl at the village level, if I'm a highly educated person with a high-profile career, we're all citizens of this nation. And what has come to our attention is, if you have resources, then you can access justice. If you do not have resources, then you do not access justice. And what we are saying is, since these children are citizens of this country, then they're entitled to access justice, regardless of what it takes.
Mercy has created a safe haven. When girls arrive at Tumaini, they'll receive medical attention, including testing for and treating HIV, as well as counseling. But it's also a place where they're free to be children. There's lots of playing and laughter and smiles. It's easy for me to forget why they're here, until I see a girl off on her own or in tears, and I remember.
Nikiwa natafuta tochi. Sasa akanijika akaniambia nikisema nduru hata nikatanga.
He took her by force and warned her not to scream, otherwise he would cut her up.
Hapo akanitoa nguo.
Then he removed her clothes.
Akaanza kuniralia.
Then he laid on top of her.
Sasa brother yangu akachukua kipanga, akaenda kufuruta brother yangu, nikatoka nje, nikakimbia.
Then her brother walked in with a panga, a machete. Then he removed the man from on top of her, and then she had a chance to run away. This was her grandfather's house. She would want him jailed.
Grandfather.
Ukimaliza masomo na ukiwa mkubwa, ungependa kuwa nani? Ungependa kufanya kazi gani? Askari. A policeman. Yeah? Yeah, so that maybe she can arrest all those people who do these things to small girls.
My cousin forced me to have sex with him. When I refused, he told me that he will kill me. I said yes, then after then I was pregnant. Then I just ran and something came to my head, and well, I was confused and thought to kill myself. Then my aunt, she brought me here. I was happy because nilifurahia sana cause sikuwa na pahali pengine pa kuenda.
I was happy because I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Na nikakaa hapa nikajifungua mtoto.
I stayed here till I gave birth.
And I'm happy.
And I am happy.
I thank them and I love them. They will help me and I will go back to school. I will work hard to achieve my career, to be a doctor, surgeon.
These pages, golden pages, healing pages, vultures pages, pages of the book that I am. I show the way, I lead the way, I show to pray, I make your day, I never lead astray. Thou should not kill, thou should not steal, for the wages of sin is death, who wants to die. Here I come, walking down through history to eternity, from paradise to the city of goods, victorious, glorious, serious and pious, elegant, full of grace and truth, the centerpiece and the masterpiece of literature, glowing, growing and flowing, here, there and everywhere, the book of books that I am.
Our challenge right now is the police at the police level. Investigations hardly happen, and if they do, they are hardly done in the right way. Most times when you report a case, there's always an excuse. Maybe they don't have fuel for their vehicle. They want you to give money to fuel their car so that they can go and do investigations. Even when the exhibits, like maybe the clothes that the child was wearing at that or the victim was wearing at that particular day, when they bring them as exhibit to the police always tells them to go and keep them and then bring them on the day of the court. There's no confidentiality. When the child begins to tell their stories, the police officer will even call the others, hey, just come and listen to this story. And we've also had incidences where somebody defiled a child and made the girl pregnant. And he went to his pastor and confessed. And the pastor said they had forgiven him. So what we argue with them is forgiveness is right. As a Christian, we are supposed to forgive. However, we have the law of the land, and the law of the land must be enforced. Yeah.
The system does have a potential to work. Our laws themselves have inbuilt mechanisms to ensure that sexual offenders don't get off the hook very easily, because we have minimum penalties. Especially when you talk about defilement, you will find that we have minimum penalties of 10 years if it's an attempted defilement. But if it is proved that you defiled a child, then you will get life imprisonment. A lot of our people don't know where to start from. Or sometimes they look at it and say, it is simply too far to go to the police station, or it's too much trouble. And sometimes they just decide that we are sorting this thing out of court. And you see that again is also not good for the child. You know, you are deciding something on behalf of a minor who is likely to suffer these lifelong consequences.
If there is no justice being done, the man will do it. They will do it again, and they will do it again. And I think the solution will be to hold the state accountable to ensure our existing laws that protect women and children are being enforced.
A world away in Toronto, a group of human rights lawyers are meeting. They are the Equality Effect, and they use the law to make girls and women safe from sexual violence. They're from Canada, Kenya, Ghana, and Malawi. They met doing graduate work at law school in Toronto. Fiona Sampson is the Equality Effect's founder.
All our partner countries share a common legal legacy inherited from Great Britain, an excellent sexist legal legacy that continues to express itself through the law, and so the jurisprudence and legal methodologies and strategies that we've developed in Canada are transferable potentially to these other Commonwealth contexts. So we work collaboratively and pool our resources.
And now enter Mercy. She first came to Canada to participate in a human rights workshop at the University of Toronto.
We went out for lunch, and Mercy told me what she does, and I told her what we do at the Equality Effect, and Mercy said, you can help us. And I said, maybe we can. And then I said to Mercy, we'll need plaintiffs, we'll need petitioners and applicants, and she said, I have 160 girls that need access to justice who've been through the center, and so that's how the 160 was born.
The 160 Girls team comes together. Over the next 5 days, they'll strategize how to hold the Kenyan state accountable for not protecting girls from rape.
We also don't have police officers who are actually trained in terms of investigating sexual crimes. So it's just handed over to just any other police officer. So there are even no procedures for investigating.
We need to demonstrate that the cops' failure to enforce the existing laws is a product of sex discrimination and age discrimination.
Kenya has a very strong Bill of Rights.
Some of the stuff around children's rights, we'd be very lucky to have in our own constitution.
Individually, each member brings their unique perspective and area of expertise, but together, they make up a legal justice dream team.
This has never been done before in the Kenyan context or the African context that we know of.
Law cannot change everything, but it definitely can make a great difference. I remember growing up in Ghana, it was a challenge to have girls in school. But when the government legislated compulsory free basic education, and there was parents were educated about it and required by law to send their girls to school, things improved. But it took having it on the books.
If somebody rapes you, there's a big scar that is left. It's just the way you take a piece of paper and tear it into pieces. If you took that paper and tore it into pieces, you can pick that paper, glue it together, stick it together, stitch it together, even try to iron it. But I tell you, that paper can never be straight again. And that is the damage that is caused on these young girls. Sometimes they may have a smile on their faces, but I tell you, there is a big scar in their heart, and it takes so long to heal. Sometimes it doesn't heal at all.
To build a solid body of evidence, the legal team partners with Ripples International, the NGO founded by Mercy and her husband. Under the Ripples umbrella is a medical center catering to children, a day school for the local community, an orphanage for babies, ongoing outreach programs, and Tumaini shelter. Each girl receiving treatment at the shelter is assigned a social worker who will follow her case from the time she arrives through the justice system.
We make sure that the police are doing their work to forward the cases to court and also to do proper investigation. We have so many challenges. I think the community is not informed on handling those issues. And also the families of the abused girls, they compromise with the perpetrator and they agree a certain amount of money. When that amount is not paid, is when they come to us and say they abused our girl. Now we are going for we call risk assessment. That is for home study. We want to know if the home is safe for the girl or not. We have some situations that are dangerous. It is risky looking for somebody who has done evil.
So there are 3 girls and 1 boy?
Yeah.
So the dad was married to another lady and then she left?
Yes.
This case I know, I got the information from an anonymous person and he told me there is something going wrong here. I talked with the head teacher of where she is schooling. She is in class 6. So I just came and just took her and drove her to the police station. So that's when she was taken to the police, to the hospital to be checked. And I was given some officers. We went to where the father was working. So I just took the father and took him to the Gedongo police station. Why a father can do that to her own child? She was doing this whenever he came home being drunk and disorderly, not only drunk. He was coming home being drunk and disorderly. That's the report I got.
Unapima ukishika mguu. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me so.
The case is complicated, and also the dad is mentally challenged too.
Yes, that's the one where the police refuse to investigate because the perpetrator is mentally disabled.
The social workers play a vital role in gathering evidence by keeping detailed reports on each of the girls admitted. These reports outline the discriminatory treatment of the girls by the police, and this evidence will form the basis of the 160 girls' claim.
And what was her last name?
The last name is a bit hard. It's a Meru name.
Okay.
It's really hard.
Okay. It's hard for you too?
To pronounce it, it's very hard.
Okay,
but she gave herself a name. She gave herself the name Mercy.
Oh, she's given herself the name Mercy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they're interested in investing in Ghana.
For over a year now, the 160 Girls team has been collecting evidence and developing the legal theory. They've chosen 11 petitioners who best support the case. Mercy, representing Ripples and the remaining 160 girls, will be the 12th. They've also decided that the case will be a constitutional challenge, eager to test the newly ratified and highly praised Kenyan constitution.
This is not just for us here in Meru. From the very beginning, we said this will be a success for every girl child across the country and beyond.
Alice lives just outside Meru on a small homestead amidst farm fields. Her parents have died, and Alice's stepmother is now her legal guardian. She's raising Alice and her 3 siblings, working casual jobs and selling produce. Alice is 11 years old. She loves to draw pictures in her notebook at school. A few months ago, when Alice was on her way to school, she was raped. A man grabbed her. She tried to fight him off, but she couldn't. Alice was found by her teacher. She wouldn't tell him what happened, but he knew she needed help. He took her to the hospital and her stepmother was notified. Alice's stepmother went to the police. She told them about Alice's rape, and the police promised to make an arrest, but only if she paid them first. Alice's stepmother had no money, and so the police said there's nothing they could do, and Alice's perpetrator went free. Alice was admitted to Tumaini, where she received treatment and protection. She's home now, while Ripples arranges financing for boarding school, where she'll be safe from the man who raped her. Alice has been chosen to be one of the 11 petitioners. Charles Matuma was Alice's social worker at Tumaini, and he's come to explain that it will be a long-term commitment with an uncertain outcome. The 160 Girls legal team has hired a constitutional expert whose job will be to argue the case in front of a judge in court. Muthomi Thiankolu is based in Nairobi, but he grew up in Meru, his brilliance winning him scholarships in Kenya and Great Britain.
You are Canadians or Westerners?
I had my own skepticisms that I feared this is just another one of those activist type of litigation. But when I discovered that it was truly about the girls, it was truly about seeking justice, I was a bit more interested in getting involved.
Things would go suddenly so wrong.
They meet with the guardians of the 11 girls regularly. Under the Constitution, there's an option available to seek financial compensation, and the team needs to know if they want to pursue it. Unanimously, the guardians say no. They don't want money, they want justice. While the team builds their case, more and more girls come to the shelter for treatment.
We have more than 40 girls that are here today. Our capacity is only 20 girls. The numbers are overwhelming, and the more we have created community awareness, the more cases are coming up.
Lillian is one of the girls living at Tumaini right now. Lillian is 8 years old, and she loves her baby brother. She's another one of the 11 girls whose case is providing evidence. When Lillian was alone at home one day, a man broke in and abducted her. He took her to a nearby farmer's field, where he and 2 other men defiled her. Lillian crawled home on her hands and knees. Her parents brought her to the hospital. The doctors took x-rays and discovered she had a broken pelvis. Lillian's father, Jacob, who was blind, went to the police. He told them what happened to his daughter, but they did nothing, even after the perpetrators threatened to burn Jacob's house down. Jacob was persistent. Finally, the police issued an arrest warrant for the main perpetrator. But instead of doing their job, they handed the warrant to Jacob and told him to make the arrest. Now Jacob doesn't go anywhere without the warrant.
They started now saying that they will kill me. they will kill me. There were around 3 people who were saying, Jacob, we are going to kill him if we don't withdraw case in the court, that case of development. Anthony General himself is the one who can withdraw the case of defilement, but not me. I was told what these people wanted is they wanted maybe to kill the daughter, and then the case cannot be, then the case has no evidence. Somebody told me that. What about if it were your daughter? If it is your daughter, would you forgive? But he did not answer my questions.
It's the day before the claim will be filed, and the parents and guardians are nervous. In each of the 11 cases, the perpetrators are still free. They pose an ongoing threat to the victims, their families, and their communities.
So everyone was worried, what is happening, why? So at least now I have the guts to go and explain to them we are not going to appear anywhere, and we are not risking the name of the home or anything.
Perhaps what I should clarify is that it is the publication that is banned. No one can write in a newspaper, no one can announce in the radio or on television that Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so was involved in this matter.
That's why I'm saying now I'm confident.
But the courts will definitely know who are the real parties.
Because of concerns about personal safety and also concerns about not jeopardizing the litigation. If any of you, for any reason, I mean, it shouldn't happen because the media shouldn't be able to trace you, but if you are contacted by the media, if you could ask them to please contact Mercy as the representative for the action.
It is our right to be there, so don't feel worried about that.
And then, this is a culmination of years of effort and investment by an interdisciplinary team of experts who have committed, the lawyers alone, millions of dollars of pro bono hours to make this historic moment come about. When Mercy puts pen to paper, we're winning access to justice for the 160 girls and for all 10 million girls in Kenya.
The day of the filing is timed to fall on the first ever United Nations International Day of the Girl Child. A procession will march through Meru and hand-deliver the claim to the courts. The claim brings their petition against 3 respondents: the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Minister of Justice, and the Commissioner of Police.
Today, we are coming here. So when you know what has gone wrong with our daughter?
No, we are just finding a situation. That's all. There's nothing. No, we are not meeting with them.
I want to meet them. No, they have laid down procedure.
We'll bring the thing right now.
We came very nicely, a nice procession. We go to the gate, and Esther, Esther is the one who said, haki yetu, our rights. And the other girls started saying, haki yetu, like, our rights. We are demanding for our rights. We're demanding for our rights. it just came out naturally. I think it's like once they got to the gate, they realized this is where our justice is to come from.
What do you need to achieve meaningful equality in a society? It's just to empower those who are marginalized. But since the law is a tool that declares what is right and what is wrong, the law is an absolute requirement.
So we are now done. We are filed.
Okay.
So we are ready to go.
Okay, so now we're in business?
Yes.
Okay.
They're supposed to respond within 14 days.
Okay.
Then the matter will be placed before a judge.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we can do the day when
We will let you know.
We will let us know, yes.
Our claim basically was that we have very good laws that protect our children against defilement. Unfortunately, those laws have not been enforced by the police. We are holding them accountable, and we are hoping that in the turn, they're also going to hold the perpetrators accountable.
You find that a case goes to court, and then we find that there is
2 days after the filing of the claim, Mercy's husband and father of her 4 children is killed in a car accident not far from Meru. Ripples has just finished construction on a new shelter. It can accommodate twice the number of girls as the old one. The girls here now are between the ages of 4 and 15 years old. 2 of them have babies, a 1-year-old toddler and a 5-month-old. The pregnancy is a result of rape. Auntie Anne helps the girls adjust to their new home. I hear her name ring over and over through the echoey halls.
All of us has a part to play because this is whatever we are doing it for ourselves. Okay? So it is just a communal thing. Yeah.
So everybody helps out?
Unless the very small girls who cannot do anything, but they actually enjoy.
Auntie Anne lives with the girls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and keeps the shelter running smoothly.
I'm still going on, but
Sixty-eight. 68 divided by 8 is?
8 because of 64.
It's 8 because of 64.
There's no school for Lillian today. She's the little girl whose father, Jacob, is blind. With the local chief's help, Jacob arrested the main perpetrator, and with pressure from the filing of the 160 girls' claim, police arrested him. Agnes, Lillian's social worker, escorts her to court so she can testify. She'll have to recount how 3 men took her from her home and raped her in a field. Because 2 of her perpetrators are still free, it's not safe for Lillian to go home, and it's been over a year since she slept in her own bed. Her parents and younger siblings have traveled from their village to visit her.
But I can say today it went well, and she narrated what she could remember. So today it was a great day for me because it has taken almost 1.5 years before she testified in court. And I can say it went well.
Two months after the claim was submitted, the 160 girls court case comes in front of the judge. Ripples has arranged for Alice and her stepmother, along with a handful of other petitioners and guardians, to travel to court. It's a long journey for some of them, and it means taking time away from work and childcare. I was surprised to learn that the court proceedings would be entirely in English. Many of the guardians, including Alice's stepmother, don't speak English, but it's the official language of the High Court, handed down from Great Britain. Mercy's on her way to court too. She's had little time to mourn Chidi's death.
The respondents and not out their submissions, and I really do not know whether that position has since changed.
Today was not a good day for justice. The lawyers representing the government insisted they'd lost their documents and would need new copies and more time in order to prepare their responses. A new court date will need to be set.
So what next, good people?
Are you doing anything else here?
Nope.
Weeks turn into months, and Muthomi and his partner Karanja waited out in Nairobi.
I think the reason the police were not taking these matters seriously is partly because of a problem that you see the world over, whereby women issues are considered less important. And when the priority scale is drawn, the issues affecting women and children would always be put at the bottom of the list of priorities. When the international team was gathering residents, we were amazed that the problem of the police and law enforcement agencies not taking grievances about abuse seriously. The most important lesson for me was how global the problem is. It was in Brazil, Turkey, it was in Canada, everywhere.
My mother and your mother were washing. My mother gave your mother a piece of gold. Which color was it? White.
Judy is another one of the 11 petitioners. Judy is 13 years old, and she wants to be a lawyer when she grows up. She decided this after marching in the 160 girls procession the day the claim was filed. Judy's family lives next door to police barracks, and when Judy was 12 years old, she was defiled by a police officer. she became pregnant. The perpetrator signed an agreement with Judy's parents admitting he was the father and that he would provide for the baby. But he refused to honor the agreement. And so Judy's parents went to the police. They reported Judy's rape, but the police said there was nothing they could do, even though there was a written admission of guilt. Judy was admitted to Tumaini for treatment, and she gave birth to a baby boy. When it was time to leave, it wasn't safe for her to go home because the perpetrator was still free. So Ripples arranged for Judy to attend boarding school. She likes school, but she misses her baby, who she's had to leave at home with her parents. While living at Tumaini, the new mothers put school on hold. They stay at the shelter longer than the other girls, caring for their babies until they're old enough for either a family member or the Ripples orphanage to take over guardianship. 1-year-old Jewel can always be found at the center of the action. 6-month-old Francis spends most of his time with his mother. I ask Auntie Anne what the word Tumaini means. She tells me it's the Swahili word for hope.
Bye-bye.
We are going to rescue a girl. She's 16 years old, and she was defiled by a class teacher.
And called Lipos International because we have a child who has been defiled and she's expectant. She's 8 months pregnant. So we may have to wait until the child is born to do DNA, because most of the time the culprits deny paternity. Like, the teacher denied responsibility. Cow may be in danger, can be kidnapped. So it's a problem because the mother is poor, she has no influence.
That is
the P3, this is the P3 form.
Yeah, P3 form.
Yeah.
You need that also.
Only number 42. So make a copy of this.
Nancy has another problem. Once it was discovered she was pregnant, she was forced to leave school, not permitted to write her final exams. Leah and Chiptende are meeting with the school principal. They want to make sure that Nancy has a chance to pass her year.
We bring her to sit for her exam.
She can even come, because I will be here.
We always accompany them when they come to sit for the exams. Reason being, number one, they have those small babies. Of course,
yeah,
she can't
I know,
the small baby.
And you have to care for the baby.
Yeah, so somebody must accompany her to come and sit for her exam, and maybe in between the breaks, yes, she's also able to feed the baby. So maybe you can also give us your contact. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to understand. Yeah.
Myself, that's how I work.
Yeah.
We have no competition.
And I also understand the community because I've been here.
She's cheating.
Yeah, I know that.
What are we have no problem.
Okay.
I will learn next time.
When they start thinking about their homes, their parents, or what have happened to them, sometimes they can get unhappy and you have a very moody group of girls. You find some who come and they have conflicts with others at every time. They want to fight and they are like, no, I don't want to be here. It's a prison. You know, our movement is limited.
You are home for the next 6 months.
Five months have now passed since the claim was filed. Once again, the legal team convenes at the court in Meru, hoping that this time the respondents have submitted their arguments so that the case can finally move forward.
We have not filed submissions. Reasons being with the submissions. My Lord, I do understand this is a matter that is of national or public interest.
Why are you scared of them?
It is only fair that the respondents be given time to go through the voluminous submissions.
The thread that runs through all the motions so far, since 11th October last year, so the respondents have not been ready. The time has now come to hear this matter and decide it one way or the other. That's all.
This court, very reluctant, will grant the respondents an opportunity to put in their submissions. It's final. That's not final.
But then,
They are never ready.
but he will just now, he will give you.
But they don't care.
Despite.
I don't think they really care.
For me, they were just frivolous objections without any basis at all. Will they be ready at the second coming? Is it when the Jews are converted, or like the people of Meru say, will they be ready when our donkeys have grown horns?
Uh-oh.
There's a small farm high on a hill near Meru. It's well tended, and many vegetables are grown in the gardens. There's a mango tree on the farm, and in season it drips with fruit. Isabel is 10 years old, and her favorite fruit is mango. One day, Isabel was gathering wood near her farm. Suddenly, she heard a noise. She saw a man crouching in the bush, watching her. Scared, Isabel decided to head home, but the man came after her. He grabbed her and dragged her into the bush. The man defiled Isabel. He left her tied to a tree and told her if she screamed, he would kill her. Hours later, a neighbor found Isabel and freed her. She was hurt and scared. Isabel's mother reported her case to the police, but the police said there was no evidence, and so they couldn't make an arrest. Yet they didn't want Isabel's soiled clothing, and they didn't get a victim statement from her. The police never visited the crime scene or interviewed the witness who set Isabel free. There was no evidence because no proper investigation had taken place. Isabel is at Tumaini because it's not safe for her to live at home while her perpetrator is free. Today, the 160 Girls legal team is hoping for a ruling. It's been 8 months since the filing, and the respondents have finally filed their submissions.
If there is one thing that we can confirm from the court record, it is since this matter started last year, the lack of preparedness, the lack of seriousness, and the harshness. I think the court has indulged them enough times.
I've come to my conclusion, which I'm going to read. It's a long one. In the circumstances, I find the petitioner's meritorious, and I proceed to grant the following orders. 1. Neglect, omission, refusal of the police to conduct prompt, effective, proper and professional investigations into the first 11 petitioners' complaints of defilement by alleged the first 11 petitioner on fundamental rights and the freedom. Special
Now, each of the 11 petitioners will have her case reopened, properly investigated, and have access to justice.
This is not just a success for us, it's a big milestone for all the girls in Kenya who are either have been victims of sexual violence or maybe to be victims of sexual violence, because it means now the law holds the police accountable.
We are going to put a flash here. People can put a clap because this is the real victory for us. Justice is now here. Justice is now here.
The first marathon in Meru is run to celebrate the 160 girls' victory and to create awareness for the need to end sexual violence.
One step forward and the work just begins. Yeah.
Usually lawyers will litigate a challenge and then they depart. But what was different in this instance was that our partners said we have to work together to achieve implementation.
How are you? Oh.
Traditionally, the law works in a very exclusive silo and is quite separate from the rest of society. It's a bit of a brave new world in terms of making sure that human rights law actually becomes real. It doesn't just magically happen that those laws jump from a piece of legislation into a girl's lap. We were recently asked by the police if we would provide them with training so that they can comply with the 160 girls' decision. What they've asked for is a long-term commitment. We'll work with them for at least a year to start. We will provide the training working with our Canadian experts, our Canadian police experts.
Why the police training? I think many would ask. We cannot make the assumption that the police know what they need to do. With the ever-evolving nature of human beings, with the ever-evolving nature, for instance, of sexual offenses, there is need to take this training to that level. Fine, we understand that you have had certain challenges in the past. You have been unable to conduct investigations to a certain high standard, but here we are trying to partner with you. We are bringing in international, regional, and local experience to professionalize and give best case practice scenarios. Then once that is done, then we can fully hold the police accountable, we can hold the state accountable when there's lapses and professionalism or simple malpractice with regard to investigation of cases.
The equality effect needs someone with experience and training in sexual assault investigation. Canadian police officer Tom McCluskey has investigated well over 1,000 sex crimes against children and has created training programs internationally. He was also an expert witness in the 160 Girls claim. Today he's meeting with frontline workers of sexual assault victims to get a better understanding of the issues they're dealing with.
We need interventions. First is right at the police station, the customer service.
I've seen lots of people who don't do a very good job, and so your first thought is, okay, I got to transfer this person. But if you really stop and look at that person, most of the time they don't know what to do, so they do a bad job.
We've seen a lot in the 160 Girls is police saying that they don't have the fuel to go and investigate the crimes.
I can tell you that it's the exact same in Cambodia and it's the exact same in Indonesia. There's no money for fuel, and they ask for money from their complainants and their victims to investigate.
How Fiona I've mentioned, like when they went to report the case on defilement, they were told there's no fuel. But when a theft case came, automatically fuel appeared from nowhere, voila, and they went. So they look at it, it's not a priority thing, like it's not something they need to prioritize.
The lawyers and social workers take Tom around the Ripples catchment area so he can meet with the guardians of the few girls who have been treated at Tumaini. Tom meets with the mother of Isabel, who lives just outside the town of Meru. Isabel is the girl who was defiled and left tied to a tree.
The threats from the accused, she was very scared of that. And apparently they were actually physical threats. At some point he threatened her with a machete. So she stayed at Ripples for a while until things calmed down.
Did the police ever come up to the tree?
But the police never visited the crime scene and they never came, even to her home.
And what they're doing here becomes really apparent is as soon as they got just one thing, then that's all they go with. You know, even at the tying of the knot, we can tell whether the suspect's left or right handed.
Really?
And just that, just a little piece of evidence, just...
Uh-huh.
I mean, we don't have the police perspective, we don't know what their stories are and things they did, but certainly from what we've been told today, there's at least a dozen things we would have done more.
"50 kilometers from Meru is the small village of Isiolo. The local pastor has referred a young defilement victim to Tumaini, where it was discovered she was HIV positive as a result of the rape. Her perpetrator is still free.
How old is the person who did this?
He is over 50 years.
50?
Yes, over 50 years. He's a mzee, he's an old man. Yes. So we are trying to trace, we are just following.
He must be from here, though. If he lived here, wouldn't he have relatives around here?
You know, I cannot give you a lot of information because of this audio.
Okay.
I will tell you some more information.
Okay, sure, yeah, okay. Okay. Have you had threats made against you?
Yes.
And you take those threats seriously?
Very seriously, very. But we need to teach people quite a lot on the right of children. Quite a lot. It's an area that
Tom visits Alice's stepmother while Alice is at school in the village. She's still waiting for a place in boarding school. Tom learns the details of the police mishandling of Alice's case. Now Tom will return to Canada, where he'll begin drafting a training curriculum. The legal team arrives in Mawa to monitor Judy's case. She's the girl who was raped by the police officer and is scheduled to appear in court today. Since the release of the High Court decision, the police have investigated her case and made an arrest. Now the perpetrator is being prosecuted.
The father said he wants the court to drop the charges. They came to us as a way of trying to sweet talk us on the side to drop the matter, and came with a different approach that they are being demonically attacked at night. He's having nightmare, and because the tribe of the accused comes from the Kamba tribe, and they're believed to conduct a lot of witchcraft. So he's saying, I think the man has contacted some form of witchcraft and we are being attacked at night, I'm hardly sleeping. So I want my peace and I want this matter to end. So we encouraged him to seek spiritual counseling and support and leave the law to take its course, because we didn't believe it has anything to do with spirituality.
DNA samples to prove paternity were drawn from the officer, but they'd mysteriously gone missing. The lawyers are here to request new samples be taken. The judge agrees. The team devised a new plan to make sure that the next batch of DNA samples aren't tampered with. Trying to get justice for Judy hasn't been easy, but they're determined. Because the perpetrator is a police officer, a conviction would send a strong message.
I needed to talk to you about and seek your guidance. I think for this particular case, it's basically about integrity of the involved person. And it all has to do with being bribed. It all has to do with bribery. And bribery is not something you need to go for a training and be taught. That you have to stop receiving bribes. You have to stop receiving bribes. You have to stop rigged. So it's all about integrity.
"11 senior Kenyan police officers arrive in Toronto. They'll be working in collaboration with Tom McCluskey, the Kenyan Human Rights Commission, and the Equality Effect to finalize a training curriculum in sex assault investigation.
Nobody internationally has done this. Nobody has done the work that we are doing here now. And we have secured access to justice for 80% of the petitioners in the claim. So we've seen an excellent response from the police in Meru.
I am not used to teaching to such a senior group, and I honestly didn't sleep one wink last night. And then when I got here this morning, I realized I'm not really teaching you, I'm showing you what I'm going to teach the frontline officers. I appreciate the challenges that you have, especially with equipment and police cars and finances.
We have the government, we have the law enforcement, and then we have the citizen. If they don't play the role here, then it becomes hard when you are conducting your investigation.
You know, you get challenges where even the community can become hostile if you are taking action against a breadwinner.
There's also the issue of compensation. Some people know it's wrong, but they agree to deal with it in their own way. So they say, well, he did that. Well, 3 cows are enough too. So you get 3 cows, and then tomorrow somebody else is again defiled, and then it goes on and on and on.
2,400 police officers will receive the training, and the impact of the training will be measured.
Ongea walimu wetu, hakika tena mpenda, twaomba msimame tukae pamoja. Kata, 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 kata.
The people we are fighting is not just the police. So public legal education, we are now targeting the larger community. We have law that exists, but the majority don't even know that they can actually get justice.
Inaitwa 160 Girls.
Parents, teachers, repos, and all my friends are poem and title Children Rights. Oh yes, children rights. Then welcome. As young as I am, I have my rights. Right to live, right to be fed, right to be educated. Father, mother, teachers, friends, give me my rights. Thank you.
We can have our seats. Thank you so much.
A recent study conducted by the UNICEF and the Kenyan government found that about 1 in 3 Kenyan girls under the age of 18 have experienced sexual violence. What does that tell us?
What we are just starting to implement now is the community engagement with the chiefs, school principals, business leaders, anybody with some influence. So at the end of each training, there's a 160 Girls declaration that is part of their commitment to rolling out that training. Another element of the work is a phone app. It is like justice in your hand. Rosie O'Han, she took on crafting the song, which relates to the social media campaign. Ensuring that the public education is accessible means that we need to work with artists and with social media experts and with IT people. They don't teach you any of that at law school. One of our Malawian partners described it as building the road as we go.
It's been almost 3 years since the High Court victory, and by now, many of the police working out of Meru have received the 160 girls training.
A lot has really happened. A lot has changed. There has been a lot of police cooperation. My mother was a police officer. Both my parents were in the police force. My mother was a very tough cop. She was very feared. She worked with the most hardcore criminals in Meru and also in Nairobi. In fact, she died in course of her work. She really wanted me to be a cop, but I knew I wanted to do this work. So even when we were suing the cop, it's not that we had anything against the cops, but we just wanted the law to be enforced.
Lillian, who was defiled by 3 men, is finally receiving justice. When Lillian's case was reopened because of the 160 girls' victory, 2 of her 3 perpetrators were convicted and sentenced.
Myself, I'm happy, very happy, because the court today, the court has ruled is now making me happy, and the work which is Repos International is doing, it is making me happy also.
A girl was admitted to Tumaini for the 2nd time. It's Alice. Like the first time she was raped, it happened on her way to school while walking through the bush. Alice got pregnant as a result of the rape and gave birth to a baby girl. Unlike the first time, the police swiftly investigated the crime and made an arrest. Today, he's behind bars. Alice's baby is with her stepmother. And Alice is on her way to boarding school.
So the cases that are getting reported now since the decision and the training, the ones that have had the training, you would say it's positive? That
it's positive.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, even as I sit here, I'm so happy and proud of what we are doing. You know, this year, to date, we have concluded 6 cases. This year. We have not lost any.
You haven't lost a single
We
case?
have not lost a single case.
We have made legal history in Kenya and in Africa and really around the world. We've been hearing from women's advocates in South Africa and Tanzania, Senegal, in the Gulf states, from China, from Nepal, from across Canada, from Aboriginal women. The case has really spoken to women and girls around the world.
But you have not had a like, oh my God.
Sophie is leaving Tumaini today. Her perpetrator has been convicted, and it's safe for her to go home, where she'll be reunited with her family and can attend the local day school.
And be a good example to the rest of your siblings make sure that you share with them what you have learned from Tumaini. Okay. Kwani anaenda wapi? Would be my friend? Tutaonana si ndio? Tutaongea kwa simu. Bye. See you. Something I know.
Somehow, as busy as Mercy is, she's managed to fall in love and get married. It helps that she married a member of the 160 Girls team, Ghanaian lawyer John Burke Baidoo.
And you can call her Abba.
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 If it was not for equality effect, we would never have. There would be no baby.
I feel like this is one of our outputs. This is an E squared output. That is hilarious.
There will be no baby.
It's been almost 6 years since I began following the 160 Girls project. But I've known Fiona a lot longer than that. We first met working at the same summer camp when I was a searching teenager and Fiona was a focused university student. Now her child Maureen goes to the same summer camp where we met. Fiona's social justice roots began when she was a child. She was the last baby in Canada born with the harmful side effects of thalidomide, a drug pregnant women took for morning sickness.
From a very early age, because of my own physical disability, the affinity that I have for other disadvantaged groups and for the experiences of other disadvantaged persons, much more serious than mine, really speaks to me. So I think I have this inherent rage that burns inside. It's a bit like being in love. Like it completely consumes me and it swallows me whole.
It starts with me and you, Tungane. Let's join our hands to fight to say me. No to children. Momekula. Tutaweza? Yeah, tunaomba shida. Shida hapo tayari. We want 60 girls. Victory is now here.
Ensuring that each and every girl can access justice, for me, it's a dream come true. It's a big task, it's a long journey ahead of us. However, I believe a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.